Welcome to Tub Talks with Damon on location in Puerto Rico. My very special guest here in the tub is Dave Watt, the founder, leader of the Mr. Friendly campaign, which many of you are familiar with. Or you're familiar with the campaign, and certainly if you don't remember the campaign, you're certainly familiar with the impact of the campaign, which we are about to talk about.
Awesome.
I'm so glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here too.
Are you nervous?
No.
Are you comfortable?
I'm very comfortable.
Okay.
You're awesome. You're very
It's not as weird as it sounds, right?
It's not.
Okay, great. So before we get into the amazing legacy and contributions you have made to our lives, to my life, I want to hear more. What do you like most about your body?
What do I treasure most?
Yeah.
My heart.
Yeah.
The older I get, the more important cardio is to me, like less about, I don't care as much what I look like or the gym, or I just want to exercise my heart so I can be around for as long as possible.
I love that. How old are you now?
I'm 59.
Okay. And so you're thinking more now about heart issues from a medical standpoint?
Absolutely. And cardio.
Yeah. Is there do you have a genetic history?
Well, yeah, family history, but also I spent most of my adult life in Michigan. Mm-hmm. In the last few years I was living in Michigan, I developed a cold-induced asthma, so I couldn't exercise outside. It was just cold. So I was like, I had to move someplace warm. So my husband picked Phoenix because he loves the desert. And I was like, okay, desert. And now I love it.
Wow.
I love it. I love desert life for me, and I'm hiking and cardio all the time now, and I love it.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful. Okay, Dave, so I want to talk about this amazing, innovative approach to status neutral connection. Now, I just did a presentation at the United States Conference of HIV and AIDS, where we were throwing around the term status neutral quite a bit.
Yep.
And I apologize to you. I forgot to say it during the presentation, so I'm going to say it here in the bathtub because I forgot to say it in the audience. This whole idea about status neutral connections and approaches to treating human beings as loving, viable, sexy, relevant humans, that, in my memory, came first and foremost from you in terms of using the internet and social media to make that a public message.
Sure.
Right? Was anyone else doing it?
There was a need for it. There was a need. This started in September 2008.
September of 2008.
So it was
before we had the term U equals U.
Before that, but we knew a little bit about treatment as prevention, especially within.
Right, but we didn't have the slogan U equals U. We didn't have the social movement yet.
Correct. Right. We didn't have the science yet.
Yeah.
But we also kind of knew, because how many pos neg couples did we know that weren't using condoms and weren't transmitting the virus? Right. We knew it kind of as a culture.
Right.
So
I just want to emphasize that.
Yeah.
Many of us were aware, I think, who lived in the community, who worked in the community,
absolutely,
that the likelihood of a negative person acquiring HIV from their positive partner when that partner was on medications was pretty much, I never heard of that ever happening within the context of someone being on treatment meds.
Right. And these are people in a relationship having sex all the time without condoms, So we kind of knew, that, hey, this is happening. Like, how do you do the science behind that? How do you develop the science behind that? That's not what I do,
But what you do and what you did
is, we wanted to, I'm in a serodiscordant couple, and there's some pushback from that term, which is so strange to me. So we also like magnetic couple, where one's pos, one's neg,
Yes.
One's pos, one's neg. And
so positive and negative magnetic, which I think is a term you developed.
I don't know if that, I pushed it. I don't think I was there. Very little about the Friendly campaign is originally Dave. It's just, I talk about it all the time, and people, but my husband and I were like, more people need to be dating someone other than their status. Yeah. People who are positive only wanted to date people who are positive often. Yeah. In fact, when my husband, I first chatted with him online, he didn't want to go on a date with me.
Really?
But he really liked my profile because I said I was pos friendly and I'm open to dating somebody who's HIV positive. And he had just and I share this with his permission, I always say that, if you ever talk about somebody's status, always say that you have their permission. He had just tested positive like 2 years before. He thought he would only ever go on a date with somebody who was positive. Mm-hmm. So I had to convince him to go on a date with me, you know? So, but you know, we went on a date and we just fell in love right away. And he's a big part of this campaign. He, you know, I just saw how people treated him online. Like he's on like some, I think Bear 411, is that even still a thing? Bear 411, uh-huh. He was chatting with somebody and shared his status, and the guy was like from the other side of the country and blocked him. Like he was just like, I can't believe somebody just blocked me. We're not even talking about having sex. You know, and we're like, Ken, we need to do something about this. So,
and was this a regular occurrence for him?
Yeah.
Where people would block him or
yes,
shut him down?
Or just shut him down
for no reason.
or shame him, you know. And I experienced that too, for just saying I was pause friendly. And people who were negative, like, I'm not gonna have sex with you because you have sex with people who are positive. And I'm like, oh my goodness, the misinformation there, you know, is just sad, you know, and a little bit infuriating because we as a culture are letting this happen. So Ken and I were like, what are we going to do about this? So I was going to compete for Mr. Michigan Leather, very active in the leather community. So Ken and I designed this plus or minus sign on a smiling face using leather pride colors. And I gave a speech at that contest about stigma and use of the word clean. And I introduced this symbol on a little clipboard. And I had, you know, I was making buttons. I had 100 buttons ready to go to pass out to people.
Buttons of the
little buttons of the little smiling face.
Okay.
You know, and it was a hit. It just, I'm getting goosebumps because so many people felt that way, and I didn't know it. I think, you know, you hear the bits and pieces of stigmatizing actions can really get you down, but you don't know how much support there is out there, which is amazing. So that I won the contest. So
Yay.
Mr. Michigan Leather, you know, that year I think I did 46 events in 1 year, passing out buttons everywhere I went and learning and talking to people. And everywhere I went, somebody was like, I like that button. I feel the same way. Because pause or neg, we're all in this together. John Boslooper, another title holder, I gotta give him a shout out because he came up with the phrase, you know what it means to me? We need to live stigma-free of HIV. And that was him. And I'm just like, that's it, you know? My husband's a graphic designer for Kellogg, so he does like Pop-Tarts and cereal boxes. So everything in our campaign, he's in charge of, you know, so.
Could I ever get like a Mr. Friendly Pop-Tart? Oh, that would be heavenly. Wow.
So, you know, the whole thing just kept growing from there. We didn't set out to launch a campaign, you know. I just wanted to have a platform, you know, that's what you do when you're a title holder, you have a platform. And I learned that, you know, I learned from so many mentors. So many people have contributed to what this campaign means that I just want to encourage people who have an idea, like, I want to make some change, try it, put it out there, and be open to mentorship, you know, because if you're willing to listen and learn from those mentors, the sky is the limit.
But it sounds like you've been that mentor. Like, there weren't a whole lot of people doing this kind of messaging at that time.
Yeah, I mean, I worked, you know, I traveled all across the country and learned so much.
So was the traveling part of being a title holder at the time?
The first year, yes. I actually had a travel fund, and I used every dime of that travel fund to travel from Florida to Boston to Portland to Texas.
And so while on these trips is when you would spread this message and share this information with people.
And the lapel pins and buttons are very popular in the leather community. So everybody's got their vest, and they all, like, you see, so we put buttons on them. And everybody was like, oh, they see the button, leather pride colors, So over time, it's just, from there, people are like, I want that on a t-shirt, And then somebody else designed, hey, it would be a cute puppy. So put it, turn the face into a puppy. So I have a gift for you.
What do we got there?
I have a friendly pup.
Oh my goodness.
Baseball cap. I've seen you wear baseball caps.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm going to gift you, it's a little plus and a minus sign on it. Isn't that cute? So I didn't design that.
Oh my
Somebody else
goodness.
designed that. And then my husband, made it turn it into graphic arts.
Wow. I love that. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I'm definitely going to be wearing this in Puerto Rico, and I'm going to be here for the harm reduction conference.
There you go.
So, wow. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I'm going to put this on the side. It's beautiful. And what resounds to me in this is you being someone in the community, working, not an outsider telling people what to do or what to think or how to feel, but as someone who is in the community, using your ethics, using the consumer-based messaging, like saying, I know my community, I know what they like, I know what they wear, I know what they will value, and reaching people on that level, which I think is often missing in these social media campaigns or these organizational campaigns.
This is a listening campaign. This is not the Dave Watt goes around and tells his story. This is a campaign about, I'm here for you, or how do you feel about this? That positive and negative, we should all be in this together. We want to support people of any status. Are you with me on that? Every time somebody says yes. Rarely does somebody say, oh, I think that's stupid. Like nobody ever says that.
I was going to wonder, so what resistance were you getting around the late aughts, early
mid 2000s? None.
Yeah.
None.
So people were ready for this.
People are ready for it. People get it. I've been working in the field of HIV for 18, 20 years, and I used to be the condom guy. I used to go around and pass out condoms. I'd have my tray of condoms, and that's how I started a conversation. Hey, free condoms. That is not how to start a conversation. So many people are just would just literally put their hand to my face and say I don't want a condom, So then I would start a conversation that was like, hey, would you like one of these buttons? What's it mean? Positive, negative, or would you like to, often people living with HIV are treated like crap in this community. Oh yeah, I've seen that, and then they would wear the button,
So the button would be something that would be more about celebration and play and freedom versus a condom, which represents something
very
not
different.
Playful for a lot of us.
A condom is not a conversation starter.
Yeah.
It can be maybe in the right setting, but in the work I do about providing resources to people living with HIV or testing for HIV, a condom is not the way to start a conversation.
Wow. So this thing really caught on your travels.
Yes.
And then I believe, how did the social media component work? Because again, this was 2008, 2009.
Right.
A lot of us were still figuring out how to use the internet in a healthy way.
Right.
And most people still can't figure that out. But you were really starting to use this message in a wider form.
Yes. So people were like, Dave, I really like what you're doing. I want to do it too. So I developed a training with my best friend Mark Eddy, and we developed a training on how to do this campaign, how to have conversations, how to use motivational interviewing to have conversations, how to put on fun events to raise awareness about HIV. Not not get tested events, and more than an AIDS walk.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a fundraiser, although people have donated a lot of money to the campaign so that I can provide free stuff for people, which is awesome. So then teams started popping up across the country, and we do online trainings. So And then part of that workshop was put it on your profile. Put it on your profile that you're here for you. You're here for people. You want to help to answer questions, link people to care. And that's when it really took off, because other teams across the country, it wasn't just the Dave Watt show anymore. It was a bunch of teams like, hey, I get this, I feel this way, that's how I feel. That's maybe the platform I want to run on if I'm a title holder. We now have teams across the country. Some even have their own nonprofit status. Even Team Friendly in San Francisco, Team Friendly Bay Area, they have their own title holder. It started off Mr. Friendly San Francisco, and then we've changed the campaign to be Team Friendly. We've actually taken out Mr.
Right, because that was specific kind of to you.
It was specific. Well, it was specific to the campaign when it started. And we've certainly, learned. Starting a cam with Mr. probably isn't the best idea now. We didn't know that in 2008.
Right.
Right. So it's
how did the friendly term come about?
From being pause friendly.
Okay, that
pause friendly or status friendly. So it's not just about being pause friendly. It's people living with HIV being open to dating somebody who's not living with HIV. So we like the phrase status friendly. Like, are you status friendly? Are you going to base your friendship or relationship with somebody whether they have HIV or not? And that answer is the same for people of any status.
So then the PrEP thing came around. The FDA approved PrEP in 2012. Assholes like me started speaking up and yelling and forming these trauma horror communities. What was that like for you to start to see people acclimating to the message that you had already been putting out there for years?
Yeah, I mean, the concept of PrEP is just amazing. Like, I got into PrEP shortly after meeting you. So thank you for the work you do.
You're very welcome.
And oh my goodness, I referred so many people to the PrEP Facts Facebook page, and that has meant so much to.
Thank you.
I don't know, how do you put a number on that? Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. And I thank you again for permission to print your shirt, the acronym for PrEP. I love it. Because so rarely do we talk about pleasure. That PrEP adds so much pleasure and also helps with the magnetic couple. Helping reduce the fears, reducing stigma around dating somebody else. I got on PrEP not because my husband had a viral load I was concerned about. It was because we're in an open relationship. And it's also something I can do every day so that we take our HIV meds. We take our HIV meds. When we go on vacation, let's make sure to pack our HIV meds.
Yeah.
And I always choose that neutral language. What do we have? They're HIV meds.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah. Beautiful. Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Yeah. So the other context within which magnetic is used, at least for me and some of the people I know, is not just the idea of a relationship between positive and negative, but the actual exchange of bodily fluids.
Oh, yeah.
Semen exchange. That and this came much as a surprise to me, but once I started on PrEP, it was obviously psychological. I don't think there's a physical difference, but the psychological impact of being able to fully experience a man's body inside mine who is HIV positive and share that experience of merging bodies without any barriers, positive and negative, is what many of us have referred to as that sacred spiritual high that we call magnetic.
You're literally fucking away HIV stigma.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Because I would have to convince people who are living with HIV to have sex with me.
Yeah. Well, I did too before PrEP. The first few years of PrEP, people didn't know PrEP. People didn't believe PrEP, and I didn't always want to be a teacher on my knees.
Or like what I mentioned in your workshop is, people are really concerned about, the the HIV having variants and getting the super bug, that PrEP is going to be the cause of that.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of pushback around that in the early PrEP days. And I'm
Right.
like, there's no science here, you know, to back that up. And luckily science has since proven that.
Right, right.
You know.
There's no science, but it speaks to the greater fear of what happens when you give people the medical ability to freely enjoy condomless, barrierless sex. What might happen? What might come out of that? And I think our culture, Puritan culture, is laden in fear of like, oh no, of what could go wrong.
Right.
I think a lot of us are geared in what can go right, especially in the realm of mental spiritual health.
So much messaging, fear-based messaging doesn't work.
Yeah.
So that's part of what the Friendly campaign was about as well, that I've learned, is when you message based on a smiling face, it doesn't work. So even some of what, you know, messages that were being launched nationally is like, take control, take the test, you know, wrap it before you tap it, you know, it's up to you. Just like, okay, try, none of those messages work with a smiling face.
Right.
So somebody I met with, you know, one of my many mentors was like, Dave, you've got a really unique campaign here. You have to, when you message around stigma, to fight stigma, when you message around HIV, you have to picture somebody smiling, say it. And if you can't picture somebody smiling, say it. If you wanted to put that in an ad and have smiling people in that ad, then that's your ticket.
Wow.
So I always tell people that, like, when you're coming up with your own campaign, is it fear-based, or can you imagine smiling people saying it?
Smiling when you're saying
Smiling as you say it.
Wow, that's an important thing for people watching this who are thinking about doing their own campaigns.
Yeah, or your own slogan, or your own event.
Yeah.
You know?
And that to me was key with the PrEP message, and I think it's also been key in Bruce Richmond and U equals U, is that we are talking about something that just, we smile, we laugh, we play, we celebrate, we warms our hearts to talk about these things. And I think that's partly how and why we've been able to communicate about these things.
And why it's so popular.
Yeah. Why people feel that.
Because you can feel that joy, and you're alleviating the stigma, you're alleviating unnecessary fears, so that people can live happier, more fulfilled lives. And it's just, that's how you make a movement happen.
Yes. Oh, that is amazing. Now, what I do recall meeting you, that you were kind of a bit of a celebrity in this community, in a way, and I wonder for you, what's that like? Because when we're at conferences or events or you know, events where your appearance is known, you do get treated very much kind of like an Elvis figure. People really look up to you and really kind of want to be in your presence. And how does that feel for you?
It's a huge honor because, you know, while I'm the face of this campaign, but you know what people don't know is how many people have contributed to this campaign. Mm-hmm. But yes, I am the face of this campaign. You know, which. People often do feel a connection with me because the campaign is listening, and then they share their story, and I'm there for them, and how can Friendly help you? You know, so that's kind of where why I think, you know, this bit where your word celebrity it comes from is just I'm really trying to be helpful to a lot of people, and encourage people to fulfill their dreams, and encourage people to. Hey, you've got an idea for a campaign? Absolutely. Work that out. Here's some ideas. You want to be a title holder? I got some ideas on how you can be a title holder and how you can give a great speech, or how you can, you know, fine tune your message, for you to have an impact, you know. So yeah, I guess that's, and also I think, you know, I was having a dinner the other night. And somebody was the table next to us. Hey, you're the Friendly guy. I like your shirt. I have your button still on my vest or on my hat. I think is what he said. And I use that all the time to talk about HIV. You know, it's just a reminder. You know, so I think people think of me often when they get their button. And but there's so many people behind this campaign. it's not me. You know what I mean? It's a collective effort.
And yet, you give people, I mean, yes, the campaign, but I think there's also your spirit, your energy, your presence gives people a sense of hope and joy and connection.
And it is based on a smiling face, so I kind of painted myself into a corner. I have to be friendly all the time.
Oh no, I hope it's not like Ellen. Like someone's gonna take a picture of you having a bad day and be like, he's really mean. He's mean, everybody. This is the Mr. Meanie.
Oh,
We're gonna start the Mr. Meanie campaign.
Oh, me trying to do a roast? Oh, it's so hard for me
No,
to do
it's
a
so
roast.
tricky building your brand on being nice.
Yes.
Which, you know, I think women have a harder time. Like Ellen DeGeneres and Rosie O'Donnell, they really got the backlash from that.
Absolutely.
I think as men, even if we get cranky, we're sometimes allowed to be cranky. But, you know, it is tricky. Like, I'm Mr. Friendly. What if I don't feel fucking friendly today, folks?
That is a thing.
Yeah.
That's actually in the training. If you're not feeling friendly,
Maybe take some time out.
Take some time out.
Get some food.
Step aside.
Take a nap, have some food, come back.
Rely on your team. You know, like Jack Garcia and I are often. Yeah, Jack, he's awesome.
Jack.
Team Friendly Florida, he's awesome.
Yeah.
So he's often at the U.S. Conference of HIV/AIDS with me, and will be again.
Great.
So he and I just tag team sometimes. Like one of us is always fired up.
Great. So what is all this work looking like now in 2022 in Phoenix? What's happening for you? Where is all of this beautiful energy going now?
My current job, I mean, I've always worked in the field of HIV, but I'm currently, it's called academic detailing, where it's educational outreach. So I work, my job is at ASU, but it's funded through the health department. So I work for Arizona State University, and we offer to do one-on-one education with people regarding sexual health. So we're helping with clinicians all over Arizona, mostly in Phoenix right now, because a lot of them are in person. Mm-hmm. But as we develop this, I've only been on the job academic detailing has only been around for like a year.
I'm not familiar with it.
It's fundable, it's evidence-based, where you're educating people about sexual health, about PrEP, about linkage to care, rapid start, gender expansive care, how to make, one of my favorite documents that I've worked on is how to make your clinic a welcoming space. So when somebody walks in your door, do they feel welcome? So there's I've got these points that we've been developing, on how do you create a welcoming clinic. So it's just now some checklist that people can go through. Do you have a gender neutral bathroom? And if not, what can you say? Do you have pronoun buttons? Do you have people of color? Do you have things in Spanish? Like readily available as soon as people walk in your clinic, whether they feel welcome or not. And that's just one of the many things that we detail on with clinics about really getting into how do you improve.
Wow. Wait, I just need to shift a
Sure.
little. Sorry.
No.
I need some. Okay.
There we go. I can at least shift it.
So do they pay you to, or they have you go in?
It's free.
Take a look.
It's no
it's
cost.
free.
That's another thing I do. It's not free.
Wow.
It's no cost to you.
No cost. Okay.
No cost.
To go in and you walk in and you just take a look at the services, the exteriors.
It's all based on what the clinicians want.
Okay.
So we want to serve the LGBTQ community, let's say. So then we'll come back with how would you like to do that? What would you like to focus on? Hey, would you like to take a look at our intake forms?
Oh, yes.
Because intake forms are so important because often people will put something on an intake form they won't say out loud so the intake form is really essential to gather data.
I guess if I see an intake form and they ask you how many partners have you had in the last 90 days, I know I'm in the wrong place.
Okay.
Because it's none of their business.
That's right.
Because usually if I'm going into a clinic or I'm needing help, it's because something went wrong or might have gone wrong, or I might have been exposed to an STI by one person.
Yep.
And whether that happened from one person or 90 people in the last 90 days, it doesn't matter. If I'm coming to you because I need help with gonorrhea, it doesn't matter if it came from one people or 90 people.
All that matters is, are you sexually active?
And even that, no, I just lay there and they just.
You're sexually passive? You're a placebo.
But again, I wonder, I sometimes wonder, and I've had different conversations about that, like language on forms, on intake forms.
Yeah, I'd love to work with you on what the ideal intake form is.
Yeah.
It's not your preferred pronouns, it's just your pronouns.
Mm-hmm.
Gender assigned at birth. So
right.
how you collect the information
right.
is
it communicates a lot.
Yeah.
Right? It says a lot to people. Wow. Okay.
I'd love to work with you.
Okay, we will talk.
Intake forms?
We will talk. We will talk.
That is part of what detailing is all about.
That's interesting.
Just collecting all the data. Like collecting all the data on adherence techniques.
Yeah.
So we're just building like a whole list of just adherence.
Yeah.
It's adherence to PrEP, adherence to your HIV meds, or whatever they are, is so important. So just having all those documents like ready to go to provide for people.
Wow. Okay. That's incredible.
And they all, to me, it's all got to be friendly.
Back to
it's all
that
got to
theme.
be friendly.
It's got to be feeling.
Yep. It's got to be
playful.
Status neutral. It's
Respectful.
got to be respectful of people of any status.
Wow.
So how do you convey those? How do you convey that? How do you show people that you're status neutral?
And I love back to the idea of smiling, that if there's imagery, any kind of like a real person or imagery in the public areas, that there's something smiling or celebratory about it.
Yes.
I do think in New York City, under Dimitri Daskalakis, we had a wonderful campaign, the Play Safe, Play Sure campaign, that was all about celebrating. It was about people, individuals and couples looking happy as they're learning about PrEP and getting STI tested and U equals U. I mean, that was so different from what public health usually looks like.
Yeah. And that's the other thing about where we work a lot with a mobile clinic. There's leftover ending HIV epidemic dollars that are get pushed. Somebody's has a new grant, and they have a whole bunch of new staff, and we want to do mobile unit testing. So how to do that? So we want to get HIV testing out into the community. So that's what they bring us in to do.
Yeah.
And my inside voice is okay. HIV testing is not status neutral.
Okay.
So I work with them on getting them set up to do HIV testing on the community. And part of that is, hey, if you give a reactive result. So now we have to do linkage to care, rapid start. Do you know where to link people to care? So we take them through those steps. And then after we get the linkage to care part, then I say, hey, you know what? All of your staff is now trained to link people to care. So you're really doing more than testing, aren't you? And then they're like, yeah, we are. So when you're setting up all these places, you're not just HIV testing. You're doing testing and linkage to care. Wow. So shouldn't your message be hey, if somebody who's living with HIV walks by your mobile unit, wouldn't you want to check on them and see if they're happy with their health care? Wouldn't you want to check to see if they're on their meds? Wouldn't you want to check to see if they need any other services?
Wow. So that's the kind of stuff you're doing.
That's the kind of stuff.
Phoenix
yes,
now.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
So this is something I think a lot of people need to learn. It's when you're doing HIV testing, it's more than you are capable of doing more than just testing. You're capable of linking people to care. So your booth needs to say that. It can't just be get your free HIV test here, because all the people living with HIV are going to walk right on by. And if you lead with, hey, everybody, you need to know your status, come over here and get tested, the people who are living with HIV, what's going on in their head? They're like, I already know my status. I don't need to talk to you. You're only here for testing.
Right.
And if you're only providing a gift card to people get a test, hey, you get a gift card if you're testing, well, then you're just giving other people money and you're only giving people who are negative gift cards. That's just crappy.
Right, you're only giving services to HIV negative
that
people.
Wasn't very friendly of me, was it?
Well, it's true.
It's
and
true.
this is how it's often set up.
Right.
That they say, come see your status, we'll give you a gift card. But that's the opposite of status neutral care. That's only negative people who
Right.
benefit from any service you're offering.
And it's adding to the stigma of people who are living with HIV.
Right, because what if you're on a date or with a friend and you're like, and they haven't
Yep.
talked about it yet, or
Right.
they haven't said anything. You're like, hey,
And that friend is pushing them in there. I mean, I did one workshop with a clinic in Baltimore, and they're just like, yeah, we get people sometimes who come in and they test positive, and like, well, I really only in here because my friends are all getting tested, and I'm supposed to, and they're reliving that experience of getting that reactive result, and not to mention the healthcare provider now is like, somebody tested positive, and they're like, well, they already knew, but they're going through the motions so that their friends don't find out. Like, so I'm always encouraging them to come up with their own messaging so that, hey, you're just doing healthcare checks.
So the
that
neutral
include testing.
answer to that is to say, we offer services in this mobile van for
For what so
anything.
I call it. I brand it with a friendly campaign.
Yeah.
When I do it, it's like, hey, we're doing a friendly 15. We're doing 15 minutes to focus on health, and this is the services we offer when you're in there. You need PrEP information, you need HIV information, you want to know about U equals U, you want to get an HIV test. And I'm always encouraging STI testing out in the community. You want to get,
Which is also status neutral.
Absolutely.
Which is still not being seen that way. Even in the,
Yep.
none of the CDC protocols for treating HIV include STI testing at all.
Right.
So, again,
maybe you could have C testing.
Right.
Maybe you can get some Hep C funding.
But for PrEP, we're the dirty whores who need to be treated for STIs every 4 months. But who exactly are we getting those STIs from if we're status neutral on PrEP, having sex with men living with HIV? But they're never recommended or encouraged to get STI tested by their providers.
I love you so much.
Does that make any sense at all?
Totally.
This is where we're at, folks. But so thank you. I love you too.
But yes, there is so much more, funding for HIV, and I get that.
Well, and I give props to my friend Jeffrey Michael in Provincetown, because he was the one who drew that to my attention. He runs a lot of the STI services in Provincetown, Massachusetts.
Cool.
And he's been living with HIV openly for a long, long time. And he wasn't here, but we're sometimes at these conferences and learning about PrEP, and he's like, no one ever wants to swab my butt. Why not?
Yep.
What assumptions are they making about me
Right.
because I live with HIV? Why is the CDC making assumptions about people living with HIV, not having an active, pleasant, celebratory sex life? Right? So I love that your message does not do that, very intentionally saying, you come to this van, you come to this booth, we're going to talk about health. We're going to talk about status neutral health. And then if we have this conversation specifically, if you have questions about this or that, we can go further into that.
Yep. And in so many cases of, I'm undetectable, I'm good, well, how's your healthcare? You're happy with your doctor? Oh no, I can't stand up. I haven't seen him in 3 years.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, let's find you a doctor. My inside voice is like, are you still undetectable? Are you adhering?
Yeah.
We got to get you checked in. We got to find you healthcare. You know what I mean? Like all those things go through your head, and you gotta pull them in. Let's find you a healthcare provider that you like.
Beautiful. Anything else in Phoenix or about the work you're currently doing that you want to mention?
Sure. I'm on the board of directors for the Queer Center. It's this new organization, and where we're just working with the queer community, queer folks for queer folks, kind of thing. So we're pulling the friendly campaign into that. I'm also doing a project called Project Binder Finder, which is helping trans-mask people or non-binary people, if they want a free binder, we provide a free binder. Or just trying one on to see if you want a binder, just to help support the trans movement. And we just signed up somebody to make free gaffs, free tucking panties for people. So we're really excited to work with our trans non-binary community to help get them some services that they need, because that's so important too, right? We're more than just HIV people here. We care about people.
Absolutely. So again, thinking about innovative ways to help people live their lives with truth, with joy.
Yep. So Project Binder Finder came out of a need for our trans men who struggling to find a binder that fit. So we work with GC2B, which is a trans-owned.
And again, when we're saying binder, we're talking about
a compression garment.
Okay.
An upper body compression garment.
Which trans men often want and need to feel comfortable. Okay.
And what we're also finding is just offering it, like finding the right size. Sometimes people are like, you know what? I don't think I want one. Mm-hmm. And that too is sexual health care. Mm-hmm. You know, just that is health care for people. Because I want to express myself and I want to feel better about my body, and I want to take away some of those questions about how to present myself. So it's been amazing. We've given away, since it started like 6 months ago, we've given away 75 free binders, and people are writing checks and donating money to this. So this coming weekend at Phoenix Pride, we have another 150 in stock, ready to go, and we're really excited to offer that through the Queer Center.
You're amazing. You inspire me in so many ways. I know we're running short on time. He stopped on the way to the airport here. I just do want to see if there's anything else
sure
on the list, anything else to talk about in terms of what you're doing.
The Friendly campaign is great to initiate a conversation about HIV.
Yeah.
Without sharing your status.
Yeah.
So I always encourage people to wear a button, put it on your profile, mention something about it on your campaign, because it's a great way to start without needing to share your status, share your story. Mm-hmm. And it will, it's a safe way to start a conversation. It's a temperature gauge to talk about status.
Yes. The other thing that I see you doing that has been inspiring me is how I have seen you through your 50s now, living your life with meaning, with purpose, with sexiness, with joy. You really, I think, are paving the way, because we don't have a lot of role models in the gay community, the queer community, of people getting older, going through their 50s, now getting well into their 60s, living life with meaning and vibrance. And the whole time I've known you, you have shown that. You have demonstrated that. You were showing me how to do that. Is that something you're doing intentionally, or
absolutely. Like when you mentioned my heart, I need to have the energy to keep doing what I'm doing, and without that cardio, I can't march New York City Pride Parade. How long was that? I need to be fit enough to do the things I want to do. I don't want to be confined by my lung capacity, which is possible, to not do the things you want to do. And so, I'm all about, doing what you can to it doesn't have to be about getting to the gym and but just being able to be fit enough to do what you want to do.
Yeah. Do you ever have people or men come to you and saying, I feel horrible about aging, I hate my body, I'm afraid I'm going to be alone the rest of my life?
And there's so much internalized stigma around that, and shame, and how do you alleviate that shame? How can you get involved and do something meaningful? I often use lists like, hey, you're feeling down about yourself? Get involved, do something. Especially around the holidays, get involved. Come do this event with me with the Friendly campaign. Help staff a booth. March in a parade with us. Help pass out. To staff the table. I'll go around and I'll go talk to everybody, but I need somebody at the table. Yeah. I was to hang out at the table and talk to people. You're really super friendly. So just encouraging people to get involved in some way.
To contribute in some way.
And you feel so good about yourself when you meet with somebody and then you connect with them and you help them out and you can see this little light bulb go off. We're like, oh, okay, I'm not so internally stigmatized about that, or I'm really informed now about what U equals U means. I get it, So it's really it definitely gives you that boost and keeps you going.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So much of my life and so many of these talks are about healthy aging and just different people's approaches to that, because we typically don't have these conversations. But I feel like you have been exemplifying that for me and continue to exemplify that for me, about, again, just celebrating this gift we have of time,
right,
which wasn't promised to any of us 30 years ago.
Oh yeah, I mean, part of me is I was having sex without condoms in the greater New York City area in the early mid 80s. So part of what drives me is survivor guilt. So many of people our age are not here because because of what happened.
Yeah.
And we need to consider every day a blessing to be able to help people.
Yeah.
I got suds in my eyes.
Yeah. And it is a gift. And I
It
consider
is.
it an honor and a responsibility to carry on that message on behalf of people who are not physically here to do it.
Absolutely.
Which is part of why I do yap about all this stuff. And, because turning 50 last year was like, all right, there's a few ways to approach this. One of them would be with what society says is loathing and fear. But like, what a slap in the face that would be to my friends who didn't make it to 50.
Yeah.
What a squandering of that privilege.
And I'm like 59. Okay, I'm signing up for the Latinos HIV conference in New Orleans in May. By then I'll be 60. And I'm like, oh, I gotta make sure I keep up with my cardio, so that I have the energy to do that. Because I really want to enjoy New Orleans, and I really want to be fired up to meet with a bunch of people at a new conference, and so it is about giving back.
It is. And that, I think, is the antidote to loneliness, is service. And I say this to people whenever they're watching the show or in my therapy office who are coping or struggling with themes of loneliness, is that idea that you're mentioning of contribution.
Yeah.
And that has little to do with who is physically in the same room with you.
Right.
There are ways of being of service for others.
It is about listening to other people. It doesn't have to be going through all the emotion of sharing your story and, do that in a counseling session.
Yeah.
But be there and listen to other people's stories and create opportunities for people to really share without judging them, and do it with a smile.
Beautiful. Is there anything I haven't asked you
Like,
that you do want to talk about? Do you want to check the cheat sheet? Anything on the cheat sheet we didn't get to?
We did it.
Okay.
You're amazing.
You are amazing.
I have gifts.
What?
So I brought you a blue loofah because I've seen you use loofah. So this way you
Oh my goodness!
You can flag blue when you're in the bathtub. Okay. I also thought we could share some pineapple juice together.
My goodness! Thank you.
Because what does pineapple juice do? Nothing. It's
it
cum is
makes
still
your
gonna
skunk taste better.
Cum is still gonna taste like cum, but it's still fun to like. So
thank you, Dave.
And the Altoids.
Which is good, which I often tell people, especially when they're in dating situations or cruising situations or sexual situations, you always want to have those.
Absolutely.
You always want to have these ready because, sometimes you don't want to kiss someone whose breath tastes like ass.
And sometimes you don't want to have an intimate conversation with somebody in a bar when your breath stinks.
Right.
It is a barrier.
Right.
Breath is a barrier to sexual health care.
It can be. I always tell people when they're going to Southern Decadence, it's like, okay, what advice do you have about sex? It's like, brush your teeth after licking ass. I mean, it's simple. Be nice to people, tip your bartenders, and take an Altoid after rimming.
And watch out for glitter.
Well, that's okay. I don't mind that. All right, beautiful man. Oh, okay.
Cheers. Oh, we're going to toast to this?
We're going to toast to this.
With some pineapple juice. Well, here, we can just sip on it.
Okay, I'll sip on yours. Thank you, Dave. Yummy. Thank you so much for your service, for your kindness, for your time, for your contributions to our community, for creating a blueprint for me and for others who are trying to do this work with joy and empowerment and play. You're amazing. I really value you.
Thank you. And you're also giving me a second wind to this campaign. The campaign was hit hard by the pandemic and teams are opening up. I'm now getting, re-inspired. I have some amends to make some people because I've kind of dropped off and I need to bounce back. But this conference has been so amazing for that. And time with you has really helped me too. So thank you.
Good. Goes both ways. All right, everybody. Oh, if people want to follow your work now or follow what you're doing or see what's the best way for them to do
You
that?
can look for Team Friendly on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I think our Twitter account is Mr. Friendly, but it still has Team Friendly. I can't change.
The links will be right below on YouTube. So if you want to follow Team Friendly and learn more about this campaign and what's happening in your life and these ideas, And I just want us to keep having these conversations, whether it's in our bathtub or dinner tables or wherever people have their conversations, is like to talk with your friends. What does status neutral connection mean to you? What does status neutral consideration mean to you? And you know, I always prepare people. Your friends may not be aware of U equals U in prep, so they might not have a good affiliation with that. But perhaps you might be of service and might help them be the ones to start to change their thinking around some of these concepts. So if you like this, subscribe down below and watch more episodes of Tub Talks with Damon. And thank you again.
You're welcome.
Have a great day, everybody.